I'm going to discuss CELPIP Speaking Parts 1 to 8, HZAD Education's secret sauce for all 8 parts, the structure, the coherence, the words and phrases, and what examiners are looking for in all 8 parts. We'll keep it simple and we'll keep it straightforward. Let's start with question number 1. This is your suggestion question. You're giving a suggestion to friends or family. Here, you start with the greeting. Hey Bob, hey Sarah, whoever you're talking to. How are you? How's it going? I heard that you had this issue, this problem you were dealing with, based on the words from the question. And then I have a few suggestions for you. Here's the first one. Now you go firstly, secondly, thirdly. You can also use multiple connectors like furthermore, moreover, likewise, and so on. Finish with a greeting again, something that relates to your suggestions and then finishes off with a greeting. I hope you understand my suggestions. These will really help you out, but let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you this weekend. Take care. That's it. Greeting as if you were talking to a real person. Part number 2 is always a description about something, some event, some feeling. So let's say it's a discussion or a topic about your favorite vacation. So first you start by the first sentence where you describe exactly what this thing was or is. My favorite vacation was the trip I took to Greece, and this was back in 2019. The first sentence states that. Then you need to focus on 2 to 3 sentences that define the features of the vacation. Give just 2 to 3 sentences or points, but make them long. Describe them with feelings. Use adjectives and adverbs. The key here is to have quality sentences and descriptions instead of quantity. You do not need 8 to 10 points here. You just need 2 to 3 well-defined points. In the fourth point, try to explain an example, a realistic scenario that happened, or if that doesn't apply to the question, talk about your feelings or why this was an important thing for you. Once you do that, you cover more areas of the same topic for a task response, and now you're describing it in multiple ways, hitting all the other areas of range of words and grammatical accuracy. Finally, finish off with my favorite word, which is overall for conclusions. Overall, this was a great trip. Overall, this was a good learning experience. Overall, and whatever the topic is. Now, when it comes to parts 3 and 4, you are defining the pictures. Part 3, you explain what the picture has. Part 4, you explain what is going to happen next in the picture. What you want to focus on at the start and at the end is just an overall summary. For example, the picture is of complete chaos as we see people running and chasing each other. Something like that, assuming that's the picture. In the conclusion, you would rephrase something like that. And this applies for both parts 3 and 4. It's an overview in the first and last sentences of parts 3 and 4. Now, what you got to focus on in the middle is more important. When you're defining people, this one is doing this one is doing this, you mention the verbs, sure, but also mention the adjectives and adverbs. This one is doing this aggressively. There's your adverb. Or this woman looks pretty satisfied with her customer service. So that's the emotion, that's the adjective. Missing adjectives and adverbs misses the description, and most people do this in tasks 3 and 4, which is why you lose marks, because it's just plain descriptions. It's just verbs, but add the adjectives and adverbs to have your complete range that examiners are looking for. Be sure to also have the directions. Where are these things happening? At the right-hand side, towards the back, in the foreground, in the background, top left, top right, in the middle. Mention all these directions too to explain exactly what you're saying. When it comes to part 5, this is the comparison and persuasion question. The number 1 mistake people make is they don't compare the option they have not chosen. So when you choose an option, you talk about that, which is great. But you also got to talk about the option that was the other person's or the other party's option. And here you bash that option. Here you state why these points in your option are not good, while these points in my option are good. And this is where it is the comparison question, not a plain description question. Now, the points are already written in the question. You don't have to make them up yourself, but make sure that when you use them in your speaking, you paraphrase them. For example, if the question or a point there says, if the avocados, the benefit for that is you will lose weight and have a healthy cholesterol. So you shouldn't repeat the exact same words. You could say something like, it's highly nutritious considering the health benefits such as cholesterol reduction, and overall obesity reduction. Use your own words and paraphrase. Don't copy paste the words from the exact picture. When you go to part 6, you have to pick between two options where you're explaining something difficult to someone. Now here, whoever you're talking to, you start with the greeting first, and it's not always, hey, how are you? Because sometimes these difficult situations are, for example, you're in an office setting and you're in a conflict right now with a coworker. So there you're not going to say, how are you? You're in the middle of a conflict. I would start with, Cherry, I understand you're pretty upset right now. However, I want you to see where I'm coming from, and then go build from there. But if it is not related to that, maybe you're picking up the phone, calling someone, you can start with, hey, how are you? So make sure the greeting is appropriate to the context. Here, again, you want to do 3 points. Usually I wouldn't go over. You could do 3 to 4, but I would say 3 points because the fourth thing is a little important. 3 points, you explain your reasoning in the case where, for example, you're fighting with someone. Tell them your point of view, why you feel compelled that this should be the opinion. Give them 3 reasons for that. Now, in the fourth part, instead of giving a reason, do an emotional connection instead. Cherry, I understand we don't agree on this matter. However, I hope you could see my perspective and see the potential benefits. This is where you do that emotional connection. Like, I understand you. I understand this problem. I understand that I am at fault, maybe, if that's the question. And show those emotional wordings because this question asks you to show your emotional intelligence. Plus, that adds to your range of vocab and expressions. Finish off with a greeting. I hope you understand. Let me know your thoughts. Talk to you soon, etc. Now, you go to part 7. This is a debate question, and much like question number 1, this is a 90-second question. Once again, that means you have to start with a greeting and a finish, but in this case, it is your opinion that you will provide because this is a debate question. Provide your opinion at the start, and at the end, rephrase your opinion. In the middle, similar to question 1, have 3 points and separate them with furthermore, moreover, likewise. The first point, you could use something like firstly or to begin with. Now, we go on to our last question. This is again a picture question, but it's not like part 3 where you describe a picture. Here, you are talking to someone and explaining the picture to them. So it could be an art painting that you saw, and now you're explaining this painting to this person. So you would just change the intro and conclusion a little bit. It could also be something like you are standing at a junction, at an intersection, or at a bus stop, and you have to call your friend, describe the scene, and ask them directions. So the only thing that really changes in these types of questions is the intro and conclusion. For example, in a case like the one I described earlier, I'm going to say something like, hey Bob, I'm standing right now at the intersection of Della Seniori and Ward Avenue, and what I'm seeing is, and now I'm going to describe the picture. But you see the change in tone is instead of me saying in this picture I can see, I'm saying I can see this towards my right, not in the picture, right? So based on the context, these words change. Similarly, in the conclusion, I'm going to finish up with something like, this is where I am. I'm really not sure where to go next. Can you please help me out? That's what this kind of question would demand, but you might have different situations. For example, you have to rescue a pet, so you're calling the pet rescue services. Or you have a plumbing issue in your basement, and that's a picture of your pipes, and you're describing the pipes to the professional on the phone. There could be different assumptions and scenarios. All you got to do is describe the picture still, but based on the context, change your wordings in the middle a little. But in the intro and conclusion, you really want to change and address the context. That is how you would differentiate this from question number 3. Overall, make sure to have good pauses between your sentences and points to relax a little, think of the next word, and also get that mark for pauses. Make sure to be natural, be interested in the conversation so you don't sound robotic. You lose a lot of marks just by sounding robotic. Make sure to use connectors. Furthermore, likewise, secondly, overall, to begin with, keeps it structured. Make sure to also finish 5 seconds before the actual finish time because most of you struggle finishing the last sentence. So giving yourself a little buffer, a little room before you finish is key. And make sure to practice and send us your recordings for free feedback. You can email us. Our email is in the description. We provide 1 free feedback per person for speaking. Just send us your recordings. We'll tell you your level. That's it, guys, for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you found this valuable. We'll talk soon.